Hello and welcome back to Unlimited Limited, the show where we talk about Draft and Sealed in Star Wars Unlimited. Although today, we're going to do a bit of a break from form, and we're going to be talking about the Galactic Championship, which I was lucky enough to have gone to this past weekend. It was a really cool experience to see a bunch of people. I ran into some people who have been on this show before, which was very exciting. I ran into just people that I recognize from the community, which was very cool. First of all, I just want to say before I really get into anything, so the way I'm going to do this video is I'm going to have some pros and cons. And before I even get into any of that, I guess this is sort of already starting the pros section, but the designs and the setup and everything were really cool. I liked the stage a lot. The lighting was cool. It was sort of a very well organized convention center in terms of like where you would expect things to be. It was everything was very well labeled. I give them mad props for that. I have not the best organizational skills, so whenever I see other people organizing well, I'm like, oh, okay. I respect that a lot because I can't do that. So mad props to that. So let's talk about the deck that I played. So how well did I do in Galactic? Well, I didn't have a day one buy, so I was playing in day one, and I ended up going 5-3, which was, about as well as I was expecting to do. I was, really hoping to get 6-2 so I could get the day two, but unfortunately did not quite get there. So 5-3, I was playing Han 2 Blue, but a slightly weird version. This version is, in my experience, actually pretty good at the mirror match, which is sort of why I was confident in bringing it. It does pretty well against the mirror, I've found. I sadly only had one mirror match in the day one, which I did win that game, but I was really hoping to get more than one mirror match, especially with so much of the field being Han 2 Blue, but alas. So I don't really think I need to go into like exactly every card in this deck. I'll just sort of talk about a few standouts. Owen Lars is a bit of a weird one that not a lot of people were running. And I ran that mostly because of the Kira or any sort of like blue control-y matchup, because it turns out a really good turn one play, if you have the initiative, is say like, do your Ogdo Bogdo thing, and then take the initiative. They play Pershing or whatever, and then before they can power the dark side, your Ogdo Bogdo, you play Owen Lars, because then they power the dark side, you just sack Owen Lars, and you get to go find a force unit. If they have the initiative, you can just play like Yaddle and then use Han's ability to play Owen Lars for free, basically, just as a 0/1, and that way, once again, if they power the dark side on turn 2, you have Owen Lars to sack. So Owen Lars was definitely an all-star in that matchup, which is nice. I was also running an out-of-aspect Force Choke, and that was for the Anakin synergy mostly. I was experimenting around with a version of this deck that had more of these, but I think that it was too cute. Honestly, it might have been too cute to even run one, but it was a solid Force Throw target. I was hopping between this and Force Lightning as my one of, but I ended up settling on Force Choke. The 5 damage for 3 was pretty good most of the time. Anything else weird in this list? The one of Rivals Fall is a little bit silly. That's just for Kylo. And also for pilot leaders, especially Luke, because I had sideboards for basically every other pilot leader. Disabling Fang Fighter is great against Boba, and I guess Vader. Bombing Run is completely insane against Vader. Open Fire is kind of interesting against some of the space things, but Rivals Falls was very good against the Luke deck, which is sort of a slightly go taller space deck. But yeah, the main thing was for Kylo, which I did not play against either. So the sideboard, I think, is pretty typical with maybe 1 or 2 exceptions. So the Disabling Fang Fighter, of course, is for any of the more piloty decks, or any deck that relied on getting equipment down, like General's Blade. Disabling Fang Fighter was very good for. Open Fire was to give me a little bit of space reach. This was actually I think, overlooked sideboard for a lot of people, in my opinion, just because it cleanly deals with the set 1 Falcon. It cleanly deals with a lot of different things you can do in space, and it cleanly deals with a lot of stuff on the ground. I sided it in against Kira as well, because Kira flips and you just open fire, and then you still have resources left to do whatever with. Cham, of course, for any deck that plays ramp. This is a very well-known sideboard card. Bombing Run, of course, for for any deck that, mostly for Vader, but any sort of go wide deck, usually in space. And then Obi-Wan was partially for the mirror, partially just for any extra aggro deck. So this deck came together as a combination of my own nonsense and the playgroup that I went with. And I have to shout them out. Genuinely the best players, I think, in Vancouver, I was lucky enough to be able to practice with. I think one of them is probably the best Han 2 blue player I know. One of them is probably the best Kira player I know, and getting practice against and with both of them, as well as the rest of the group who had incredible tips throughout. One of them, incredibly good at Quinlan, incredibly good at Cad Bane, and, it was nice to get some practice there. Genuinely great group of people, and they're all of us sort of went in together and tweaked this list and suggested random stuff, and the list would not look like this if it were not for that group of people, so massive shout out to them. So this was the list, and I was pretty happy with how it ran. There were a couple of moments where it was like a little bit unfortunate with, draws, but, that's the game. Another thing I should mention before I go on is Ki-Adi-Mundi, which some people were running, but not so many. I was flip-flopping between him and Poe. Poe mostly for the defeat and upgrade ability on him. Right, the fact that you could attack and discard a card and deal with pilot leaders was sort of the reason to be running Poe instead of Ki-Adi-Mundi. But I switched to Ki-Adi-Mundi whenever Owen Lars was brought to my attention, just because, this extra force unit is really nice to shore up and make sure you're always getting something nice here, just that extra synergy. And then, of course, that it's a force unit, so force throw and all that other stuff. And believe it or not, I actually drew 2 cards off of it twice at Galactic, so that does come up. And then the 5 HP is, of course, a breaking point over 4 in a lot of cases, like Poe has, whenever you play him accelerated with Han. Open Fire, for example, although not a lot of people run Open Fire. Again, I'm a bit delusional for that. I also ran 3 Anakins and 2 Maces. Some people had that reversed, and that was just because of the Force Choke thing that I wanted to make work, and it did a couple of times at Galactic, actually. Good. I think that's, if you have any questions about any of the other cards in the list, let me know. But I think I've explained all of the non-obvious cards. Why are you running 3 4-drop Ki-Adi-Mundis? Well, I'll let you figure that one out. Cool. So let's talk about the pros about the event itself. So I think the Venetian was a great choice. Now, full disclaimer of myself, this was my first time ever in Vegas. I'm not like an expert on all of the convention centers in Vegas. There very well could have been a better convention center in Vegas to be running this. But, from my limited experience, the Venetian was amazing for that. It was a huge room, and it had sort of a little bit of a segmenter at one point that wasn't like obstructing anything. It was just sort of very, okay, here's where you're, playing, and here's where you're going and doing other things, whether that's meeting artists or just taking a break or anything like that, or viewing these fantastic things that I have on the screen right now, the X-Wing and whatnot. The size was great. You'd imagine that if you were to fit 3,000 nerds in one room, you would have issues with ventilation, body heat sort of being an issue, or maybe some interesting odors or anything like that. But I never really experienced that, which was good. And I think that's just because in Vegas everything is so hot, right? You need to have a pretty good air conditioner, you need a pretty good ventilation, right? And I think that this venue was great for that. It was the air always was like clean in a way that you don't always expect whenever you're in a room with 3,000 other people or so. The main event, whether that be the day 1, day 2, day 3, or the open, were incredibly well organized. There were big clocks everywhere that showed how long was left in the current round. It showed how long it went into overtime. You could just go on your phone and check, your new pairing, and all of the tables were laid out with table numbers and everything like that. There were big signs everywhere showing where you wanted to be for certain things, whether you wanted to be looking at the prize wall, or you wanted to be at the main event, or you wanted to be lined up for side events. There were big lines for everything. And as I said, myself, I'm not a great organizer. So when I see things like that, I'm like, oh, wow, this is, someone really put a lot of thought into this. And I think that's awesome. The staff were friendly and helpful. And by that, I mean, the judges, the actual tournament staff themselves, the people that were working different counters, the people that were organizing lines. We'll talk about the lines for like side events and stuff. And, those were a bit of a problem. We'll get there. But one thing that was not a problem was the staff that were sort of organizing those lines. There were people standing with signs saying like, this is the end of the line, at points when the lines were a little bit long and it was not obvious where the end of a line was. There were staff that were, working hard to get pods of 8 going for the different side events, and they really all did an exceptional job. And what I imagine was a very stressful job, they were still very friendly, and they did a great job. I have nothing but respect for the organizers and staff. There were a ton of great vendors there that were, buying and selling various Star Wars paraphernalia and cards and stuff like that, that had set up in, as I mentioned earlier, the kind of segmented area. They were in the area that was not for gaming. That was great to see those vendors there. I didn't spend a lot of time with the vendors, but it was great to see that they were there, and I did sort of briefly peruse their wares, and it was pretty cool. The artists, it was awesome to see some of the artists there. If you're a Star Wars Unlimited artist and you were not there, I highly recommend going for next year. Okay, it was exceptional, super fun. I was so lucky I got to meet Axel, who of course was on the show for Jeopardy a few months back, and he was just awesome. He remembered me, which was so cool, and I was a bit starstruck, as I'm sure you know, because I was in that episode. And I got some things signed by him, which was awesome. And there were a lot of other artists there as well, and they all had, lines and were signing things, and Unfortunately, I didn't get to get in every artist's line, but I've heard nothing but good things about it, any of them. And they all could have been charging for signatures, but as far as I know, none of them were. So it takes massive appreciation of the community to, be signing things for free when you could otherwise be paying. So mad props to the artists. They were awesome. And I would be saying that even if they were charging, just by the way, And then the last sort of area, there were a bunch of sets. So I have the X-Wing on the screen here. There's a big TIE fighter. There's a Millennium Falcon cockpit. Some people had engineered little mouse droids that were zooming around. There were a couple of R2-D2s that were very functional, that were so cool. A bunch of people were in cosplay. It really, when I was over in this area, it felt like I was in some sort of hangar in the Star Wars universe. It's like, oh, there's an X-Wing, there's a TIE fighter. These are life size, 1-to-1. And, we're all nerds here, right? I think that's awesome. Those take a lot of effort, and it was very cool to see them. And that may seem like a little thing, but, I'm sure it was a lot of effort for the organizers to get those things in. And it really was a great touch, right? To have these big Star Wars sort of things there to really communicate the caliber of the tournament. So, mad props to whoever decided to bring and organize that, because that was very cool. I heard the panels were good. I sadly did not get to go to any of them, which is really unfortunate. If I was, again, like I said, organization's not my strong suit, but there was a trivia panel that I missed, which is very unfortunate, because obviously I would have loved that. But the 3 people who won that may be coming on in the future, so stay tuned for that. To very difficult Star Wars Jeopardy. I've got to tune it up for them. If they're the Galactic Trivia Champions, I've really got to. And the promos were awesome. So I'm talking about the cards mostly here, but the playmats were cool. All of the pins were awesome. They're metal. They're great make. But yeah, the cards are what I'm mostly talking about. They're all gorgeous. Everything from the promos on the prize wall to the silver packs. I haven't seen any black packs open, but I've seen pictures of them online, and they're all gorgeous. Genuinely, they did a great job with all of the promos, and then even having some of the artists of those promos there, so you could get them signed immediately. Very cool. So genuinely, they really went all out on those promos, and I was happy to get some of them. All right, I've been gassing this event up so much, it's time to bring it back down a little bit. Let's talk about some of the cons. So day 1, I was playing in the main event, so I didn't really deal with the side event stuff, but I've heard, and I'm sure you've heard at this point, I should move this so my citation is there. So I've heard, and I'm sure you've heard at some point, either on Reddit or you were there or someone told you, but the day 1 side event organization was rough. The line was getting very long, as you can see here. And apparently the organization had some kinks that were worked out in day 2. Now in day 2, which is when I was queued up for side events, the lines were still very long, and the organization was still a little bit strange, but it made a lot more sense. The sort of ideal way to get queued into a side event quickly was find a pod of people such that you and them make 8. And then you can just go right up and say, hey, we're 8, and then you would be put into a side event. One kind of problem with the side events, in my opinion, is, and it's a problem, but it's not really a problem. It's kind of, something that everyone will form their own opinion about, and that's okay. But for me, the fact that, so when you queued up for the side events, You all obviously wanted prize wall tickets. That was why you were doing as many side events as you were. And whenever you and the premier pods were determined as the best way to farm prize wall tickets. And what was often happening was people would go and sit down, and I did this too, just to be abundantly clear. This is not like me accusing people. This is the way that you had to do it, really, if you wanted to farm as many prize wall tickets as possible, is you would sit down with your group of 8 people, and you would play, one game quickly just so that, you were playing a game. And then you would call over a judge, and you would say, hey, we all drew. And then they would come and bring you all your tickets, and you would split them evenly. I think per event, it was like 450 tickets if you split it all evenly. And then you would all get up and queue up again. And that was the fastest way to get tickets, unless you could consistently come first. But even then, it's probably honestly faster to just keep queuing up. And that was cool in that I got a lot of tickets doing that. But, I didn't really get to play the game a ton, which, was a bit unfortunate. But I did that to myself, right? I could have just sat down and said, no, I don't want to split. Let's play it out. But, I didn't want to be the guy that, stopped other people from farming what they wanted to farm. And also, it was good for me to get as many tickets as possible. So I don't know if there is a solution to that. I don't know if it needs a solution. But yeah, it often felt like I was waiting in line for way longer than I was actually playing the game. And I was, I was playing the game for maybe, we would jam out a 5-minute game just when we sat down. Because of course you can't just immediately call the judges over and say, hey, we're drawn up. Because, they wanted to encourage you to play the game, which is good. But, I'd get a 5-minute game in, and then I would go wait in the line for 20, 25 minutes, and then, take 5 or 10 minutes to get organized into another game. So it was probably a 7 or 8 to 1 playing the game versus waiting. And again, of course, I did that to myself. I could have just, insisted on actually playing at the games and stuff, but I didn't really want to ruin other people's chances at getting the prize wall tickets. Of course, I wanted to farm them myself, so, and this was the optimal way to do so. So, again, I don't know if this needs a solution, but this is just, I feel like I'm yelling at a cloud here. So, but I feel like I needed to mention it. So let's talk about the prize wall. So I got in the line mostly on day 3. Let me just say, actually, day 1, I got in the line, which was a much shorter line on day 1, to get 2 copies of Super Laser Blast with the 500 tickets that they give you for playing in the main event. That, of course, did not get me 3 copies. I really wanted the playset, but I got 2 copies, and then by the time I was able to get back there, the rest of them were gone. So I'm glad I got my 2 copies, but I wish it was 3, of course. But so that sort of gets into what I wanted to say about the prize wall, is that the line on day 3 was ridiculous. I got kind of lucky. I got in the line when it only had 4 bends, which sounds ridiculous. One really cool bonding experience as well that I had was in the actual line for the prize wall. Everyone was sort of bonding over how long and ridiculous this line was. I guess I should go back to the con section for this, but it's also kind of a pro because I ended up chatting with some really cool people in the line. I'm a bit ignorant to all the American stuff. It was really nice to talk to people from all over the country about, different things going on in the world, as well as just, talking about Star Wars. So it was, the one sort of pro here, I'll switch from the con section to the pro section, was that, standing in the line, people were very friendly, and it was great to talk to people. Even though it was such a long line, they turned the cons into a pro, which was good. But I got into the line, and it was probably a 2.5-hour wait. And about an hour and a half into that wait, there was an announcement they were out of Vader showcases. So I was saving up for the 5,000 ticket Luke and Vader showcase. I really wanted both of them, just as a one-of, just to have. But sadly, about an hour from the front of the line, they said, we are out of Vader showcases. And that was unfortunate. They're also out of Super Laser Blasts, and they were out of some of the other promos as well. And that was a little bit unfortunate, mostly because from what I heard, some people were just farming a bunch of tickets and going and basically buying out a specific promo. That happened to Super Laser Blast a lot because that was going to be the chase promo or the most valuable one. And I'm not talking about people who are going and getting 10 of them. That's fine. You want to place it for yourself. Maybe there's some people at your local game store that really want to place it as well. But I know there were people that would go up and get 50 of them, and they would just go and flip them and sell them to vendors either at the convention center itself or elsewhere. And that's pretty unfortunate, I think, just because there are a lot of people like myself that just wanted a play set of them for themselves. And again, I don't think it's unreasonable to like get promos to sell them either. I think that's totally fine. I'm probably going to sell some of the promos that I got as well. But I think that maybe FFG could have done to impose like maybe a bit of a limit on the amount of promos you could get. I don't know what that limit needs to be. Certainly less than 50. But I think I think as things went on, they did impose said limit. When I got to the front of the line, they said I could only have one of the Kylo and Rey promos, which I think that's all I wanted. I just wanted the one. So that's totally fine. And again, I don't think that number needs to be one. I think that number can be higher so that you can get a playset, or so that you can get a playset plus some to give to people at your local game store, or a playset plus some to sell. I think that, again, that's totally fine. I mean, these conventions are expensive. If you want to recoup some of what you paid to get here, I don't think that's a bad idea at all. But again, I think that limit needs to be in there just so that more people that went and that waited in line get to have that opportunity. And I am lucky because I got to the front of the line while I still had some of the promos I want, and a lot of people did not get that. I sadly could not get the Showcase Vader, but I did get the Showcase Luke. I did get 2 of the Super Laser Blasts, which is pretty lucky because I think very few people ended up getting those. I was able to get that Kylo and Rey promo, which not everybody was able to get. There were a lot of different things that I was able to get that other people were not so lucky, but of course, I was not the reason why people couldn't get those promos, whereas those people getting, 50 of them were. And then, so the same thing happened with the Showcase Vader, to my understanding. People realized that was going to be the more sought after one, and they would just go and ask for 10 of them, or however many they could get. And again, like I said, I don't think it's a bad idea to get a few. Like, if you wanted to get like 3 of the Showcase Vader, 4 of the Showcase Vader, or even 5 of the Showcase Vader, I think that's like maybe fine. But as soon as you start getting to, a sizable percentage of the total number of Showcase Vaders, there probably needs to be a bit of a limit. So maybe FFG will do that for future years, but maybe they won't. I'm not sure. There's always going to be a way around it. Like, if there was a limit of 5 and I really wanted, 50, I could get 5, and then I could sort of go through the line and say, hey, here's however many that would be, 15,000 tickets plus another 1,000 for you if you go and get me 5 of those Vaders, and even whatever. There's always a way around it, but I think adding extra barriers to people trying to, scalp all of these is probably a good thing. Ticket balance is another thing I want to talk about in terms of how it was best, what the best ways to get tickets were. I already talked about sort of the getting into a premier pod and then splitting it 8 ways. But another thing, so that's the most optimal way to get tickets, but another thing I wanted to talk about was just like, I really wanted to draft. Obviously, that's like what this whole channel is about. And I didn't even get to do one draft. And that's, I could have done a draft, but there were some promos that I really wanted to get, namely the Luke and Vader Showcase. And as a result, drafting really just didn't fit into my schedule. I needed to be grinding out those premier pods as quick as I could so I could get those tickets in time, before they would either sell out or before I would just run out of time in the weekend, right? Drafting was not a very good way to farm tickets. And that is, that's a little bit sad. Now, again, is this an actual problem that needs an actual fix? I'm not really sure. Possibly not. Premier is going to always be a faster format because you don't need to do that like long draft process at the beginning. But it would have been maybe a little bit nice if I didn't feel like I was massively disincentivized from drafting. Yes. And again, I don't know what the solution to that is, or if there is a solution, or if there even needs to be a solution. Maybe that's by design, maybe that's fine. And the last thing I want to talk about, and this is so subjective, but Vegas, and I know that we're going back to Vegas next year, hopefully. Hopefully I qualify. But I know I know the Galactic is going to be in Vegas next year. But I personally, and I don't think this is super uncommon, I didn't really enjoy it, being in Vegas itself. I'm Canadian, and it was very hot. It was very, very hot. It was very busy. Everything was very loud and bright, and, maybe that says something about my my neural capacities. But there was a lot going on all the time, literally 24/7. I would get out of convention center or even the airport when I flew in at like 2 a.m. and it was just assaultingly bright, where I'm used to, where it's night and it's kind of cool and nice. But Vegas was not like that. And also more of an issue is that Vegas is very expensive, right? Eating food at all is very expensive. Hotels, of course, are expensive. But yeah, I'm lucky. I brought a big container of nuts from where I live, and I flew with those in, and I just ate those for a lot of it, so that that I saved some money there. But I did need to get lunch and dinner at a couple of times, and it was always like, oh my goodness, this is very expensive. So, and I know that I'm not alone in thinking that, but I'm also a grad student, and a lot of people at this Galactic have a lot more disposable income than me because they work real people jobs and are not, leeches like me. But nevertheless, I did not love the Vegas element of it, but I understand that Vegas probably has some of the biggest and best convention centers, and there's a good chance that Galactic will probably be in Vegas for a few more years. Ultimately, I'm just glad that they're already hyping up next year's convention. Even if I do have to fly back to Vegas, it was worth it for this. So let's actually talk about then more pros, which I was just sort of leading in there. I love that they are quickly communicating for next year. The fact that they immediately, basically day after, or even day of, no, I think it was day after, I don't remember, but very quickly after the tournament, they were like, hey, yeah, it's going to be here again next year. Here's how you're going to have to qualify for it, which I have on the screen right now. Yeah, you basically need to win a PQ, you need to top 8 a sector, or you need to top 8 a regional, or some combination of different things. I'll put the points total on the screen now for what you need. They're very open and quick about that, which I think is awesome. And then there also is going to be a last chance qualifier. So, if you don't quite make it, but you feel confident that you can still fly out to Galactic and do the tournament before Galactic, which is pretty cool, although quite risky. And I think I probably will not do that if I don't qualify for Galactic, because if I flew into Vegas and then lost at the Open, and lost at the last chance, I would be very sad. So another thing I'm very excited about is that they added limited to Galactic, and some PQs are going to be limited. I don't think as of the time of recording they've announced whether it's draft or sealed or some combination of the two. My guess is it'll be some combination of the two. Hopefully more draft than sealed. As far as I know, most limited players prefer draft to sealed. Of course, sealed is like slightly more new player friendly, but whenever you're talking about PQs and Galactics and stuff, I think typically what their goal is to appeal to the more experienced players, and I think most more experienced players prefer draft to sealed. Next year's Galactic will be smaller than this year's Galactic, just because you need to qualify to get there. It's going to feel more exclusive, I believe, is the terminology they used in their article about it. I don't think that's a good or a bad thing. That's just a thing. I'm just very excited about the limited. The argument that they gave was they think that the Galactic champion should be someone who excels in all the game modes of Star Wars Unlimited, draft or limited and constructed. And of course, this game has been designed with limited in mind ever since the beginning. So I'm very excited to see that. Hopefully that will encourage more game stores to be running more draft. And I'm really hoping that some of the limited drafts are within a driving distance of me, because that sounds very exciting. And everyone was quite friendly. I already mentioned the staff and the judges. They were all awesome, but my opponents were all friendly. Basically, everyone I talked to was very friendly. It was great to see some teams I recognized. Shout out to the Canadian Snowtroopers. It was great to see some of the content creators I recognized. Shout out, of course, to Parker. And sadly, I didn't run into Ned, but I really wanted to. But shout out to Parker and also Ned, even though I didn't run into you. Maybe next time. Yeah, it was great to see everyone. Everyone was very friendly, and at an event that's this competitive, being friendly isn't a given. So it was great to see that everyone still had good spirits about them. All right, well, that's kind of all the thoughts I have about Galactic. I had a great time in summary, and I really hope I'm able to go next year, both qualifying and can I afford it? Those are sort of the two things. But no, I had a great time. It was lovely to see people. It was lovely to get some games in a very competitive environment. It's great to get that kind of practice, and I really enjoy the pressure that comes with a competitive environment for the most part. I wish I got more sleep, but my flight was delayed twice, and I got in very late, and I only got 3 hours of sleep before day one. So, that's one thing that I also will change in the future. I'll fly in on an earlier flight, so that even if it gets delayed, I'll be fine. So that's my real biggest complaint about Galactic, is that I suck at planning and got a flight that was too late, and as a result did not get enough sleep. Well, that's all the thoughts I have. I think I'm going to go grab some silver packs, and I think we're going to open those on camera. So I'll be back in just a moment. I'm very excited about this. I really, really hope I pull the Vader. All right. I'm very excited for this. So I got 3 on day 1, same as everyone else that was playing in the main event. But because I went 5-3, I got a few more on day 2, and then I also bought a couple off of somebody. So I'm really excited to open these. I'm looking for the Vader, but really I'm just looking for anything new. The only duplicate I have as of now is the Leia, so ideally avoiding that one. But hey, if I get one, I'll have a playset. So here we go. Oh, I'm so nervous about this. These packs are so expensive. I think they're going for close to $100 on the market right now. Okay. I have some penny sleeves and top loaders nearby. And, oh, the Obi-Wan! Nice! This one is so cool. So I think I already had this one, so it is a duplicate, but that's totally okay. This is a really cool duplicate. I think behind the Vader, it's my favorite one of the set. Oh, that's a new one. I didn't have that. That's sick. I love how they have the little Galactic 2025 on the top. So cool. So cool. Now, one thing is, the silver packs, a lot of people are saying that the cards in them are better than the black packs, which I do agree with, although the black packs are, of course, a lot more exclusive. They still have cool cards, too, but I think the silver packs are cooler in terms of cards inside. In terms of scarcity, of course, it's the black packs. All right. And, oh, hey, that's a new one. I didn't have that one. That's awesome. Invisible Hand. Whoa. I think this card is really cool, partially because I think the Swarming Vulture Droid is awesome, and I got 15 search foils just as of Galactic. Actually, shout out to some of the guys in the line for helping me out with that. I don't want to name drop because I haven't gotten permission, but shout out to them. You know who you are. Oh, and another Obi-Wan. Okay, well, I have the playset of Obi-Wan now. That's sick. That is so cool. Whoa. All right. And the Invisible Hand. That's a new one. Should I do one more? No Vader yet, so should I do one more? What do we think? Okay, I'll do one more. BRB. Will this one have the Vader? Really hoping the answer to that is yes, it actually has 2. That's what I'm hoping the answer is now. Is that possible? I don't think so. But a boy can dream. Oh. I'm being so careful with these. I'm not usually this careful when opening packs. I just rip them. Another Invisible Hand. Okay, okay. Can I get a focus, please? There we go. And Asajj. Okay, I did also already have that. So 2 duplicates in that pack, which is a little bit unfortunate. But they're still cool. They're still cool. As long as we don't get more than 3 of one. You know, a playset's nice. Can we get the Vader here? Oh, this one is easy to open. Look at that. And, oh, Ezra. Okay. I think I had that one too. That's okay, though. This is sick. I love the whale in the back. Oh, that's so cool. And I can actually put this in my deck, too, because it's, you know, it's the good Ezra. Well, both Ezras are good. But what do you guys think about putting silver pack cards in your deck? Is that too ambitious? Oh! Oh, the Ahsoka. Okay. Also already had that one, but I saw the legendary, got really excited. That's still cool, though. I wish this was the good Ahsoka. This Ahsoka, I think, is almost good. It'll be good in the right meta, but we're just not there for that. So, unfortunately. But I think the card is still cool. And Ahsoka, of course, is a fan favorite. So that's pretty nice. All right. This one surely has the Vader in it. Surely. Everyone around me on day 1 when they got their silver packs opened a Vader, all 4. Oh, there he is! Oh, that's good stuff. Okay, we got the Vader. Good, I can stop opening these now. I still have, I think, 2 more, so I'm glad that I don't have to open those. I can hold on to those for a bit and see what happens. But, oh, that's awesome. Look at him. I should put this in a penny sleeve before my hand gets sweaty. Ooh, and Quinlan, I didn't have this one. That's awesome. Okay, sick. 2 new cards, and one of them being Vader. I love that. And the Quinlan, of course, can go in a Quinlan deck. Although, I should build the updated Quinlan list. It's cool. I lost to it once at the Galactic, which is, yeah, it's a cool deck. There's the Vader. I love to see it. I have some top loaders too, so I'm going to just put him in immediately. And he's going to be in the background for... You guys aren't even ready for what's about to come next. I am going to open a black pack. So, I didn't qualify for day 2. However, on day 3, I bought a black pack from somebody, just because I thought it would be really cool to open one for the channel. So, here we go. We're going to open this black pack, and we're going to hope. I don't know what we really want in it. I think the Falcon would be sick. And the, yeah, I think the Falcon would be sick. That's my hope for this. But I'll be happy with whatever. Oh, the Anakin! I forgot that the Anakin is in this. This is actually, like, maybe even better. Oh, that's incredible. That's perfect. Insane. And Luke, too. Wait, this card is also so good in the any aggro deck. Oh, my goodness. Incredible. Holy, what good pulls. Okay, nice. So I'm not gonna chase anything past that. This is exactly what I was hoping for. Look at these guys here. Incredible. So I don't see any distinction on the cards themselves that they're black versus silver packs. You just kind of have to look at the setup online. You know, they all have the 2025 Galactic marking. So look at that. Incredible. Wow. Gotta top load these guys. Insane. Couldn't be happier with that. That's incredible. I shout out to the guy that I bought the black pack from. And yeah, wow. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I'm gonna go put these in a temperature controlled environment. Joking, obviously, but that's all for today, and as always, may the Force be with you.
So what I told you was true, from a certain point of view.
A certain point of view?